listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring acquisition and release. There are two things I make a point of doing every spring. The first is an annual solo backpacking trip. It's a vision quest of sorts where I go out into the Colorado wilderness for 7 to 10 days with only what I can carry on my back. There's nothing so edifying or clarifying as getting away from everyone and everything in order to reestablish values and priorities. As a shamanic practitioner and teacher, I work very closely with people, and time alone helps me rebalance, but it's the time away from stuff that really helps me get back together, center. There's nothing like having to carry all your necessities on your back to help one prioritize. We live in a materialistic culture where our values and often our self-worth is based upon what we own or can acquire. Yet, no matter how much stuff we have, most of us still feel dissatisfied and empty. When we put our self-worth into something external, we've given away a piece of our power to the object or job or whatever. The problem is not in lack, but actually in having too much. When our value rests in something outside of ourselves, everything we own really owns a piece of us. The more we own, the more we're spread thin, resulting in the aforementioned feeling of emptiness. Rather than being sustained by our belongings, we're burdened by them. The more stuff we have, the larger place we need to put it, and pretty soon we're mortgaged up to our eyebrows to support all the things we really don't want or need. Any time I choose to acquire something, I perform ceremony to clear the object and bless it to its new purpose. This is one of the most important ingredients of creating a high-frequency, sacred space in which to live. I perform a shamanic journey, tracking the object back to its origins, and give gratitude to all the resources and work that went into its creation. I also release it from any old agendas that it may be carrying from its creators. For example, rather than go into judgment and avoid buying something from China because of the abusive treatment of workers, I send loving thoughts to bless that person that created it. In this way, rather than sending out lower frequency of judgment, I'm projecting the high frequency of love and gratitude. This all may seem laborious, but I've found that if a thing is not worth all the bother of ceremony, I really don't need it in the first place. To acquire things without gratitude and consciousness is to pollute one's environment with whatever random agenda the objects may still carry. Better to bless them and our space with compatible frequency. Unconscious clutter drops the frequency of our surroundings and compromises the frequency of all that live therein. After my backpacking trip strengthens and rebalances me, I come home and I'm ready for the second project, spring cleaning. I go through every room in my home and gather up what no longer serves. I give prayers of gratitude for how it's benefited me in the past and shamanically remove my energy from the article before passing it to someone who has need of it. This has created a minimalist and simple life, not out of self-deprivation, but conscious discernment. This process frees me up to put my energy and resources where they'll do the most good, into my personal processing, evolution, and helping others do the same to the best of my ability. Now that is fulfilling. Our guest this hour is Laurie McCammon, the author of Enough. Laurie is a teacher and blogger who covers topics such as the divine feminine, indigenous wisdom, conscious empowerment, evolutionary biology, and heart-led leadership. She's been instrumental in establishing a number of conscious-raising organizations, including the Women's Institute of Maine, Imagine the God Foundation, the World Institute of Social Architecture. Laurie holds a BA in biology and master's in adult education with a thesis in transformational learning. I'll introduce Laurie and explore her thoughts on acquisition and fulfillment after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Laurie McCammon, author of Enough. She can be found on her website, www.lauriemccannon.com. Hey, Laurie, thank you so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
I'm thrilled to be here, Gwilda.
I promised our listeners we'd talk about acquisition and fulfillment. So let's start there. What do you see as our misconceptions around acquisition as it relates to personal fulfillment?
Well, yes, I talk about this some in the book because I think we do get confused. If I were to ask you, are you enough? And you sit with that question, so many of us would come back with, well, no, I'm not enough yet because I don't have this or I haven't achieved that. So we get really confused about the difference between being and doing. And when that happens, when we lose our sense of being, I actually say when we lose our sense of belonging, we tend to fill our lives up with belongings. And I think that's really true. We misconstrue where our value really comes from.
I like the way you said the difference between doing and being, because in each and every moment, we all have exactly what we need, and we are exactly what we need to be. It's when we step out of that we lose sight of that, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I love the ritual that you were talking about doing every spring. It so resonates deeply with me, because I think whether we're cluttering our lives with negative stories about ourselves, not being enough, or we're cluttering our lives with things or responsibilities that don't really match what our passion is, what is enough to us, we're blocking our availability to really live our divine path.
I love that. I've noticed that most of us tend to identify with our possessions versus our true essence.
Hmm.
Sadly, many people think they have no real worth beyond the value of the car they drive. So, how much of a role does this tendency have in what you call the never enough mentality?
Well, yes, I think we're in our culture. We are taught to really look at the things around us. Our lens is pointed away from ourselves. I was just listening to a lecture a couple days ago that was entitled "The Only Thing Missing in Your Life Is You," and I think that's very true. We tend to be looking everywhere but within, or to the subtle knowings and feelings that we have inside about what is right for us. So we can get very distracted because these things are very present, and we can see them, we can touch them, we can feel them, and therefore they seem somehow more real than what's going on inside of us. And I think the revolution that's happening right now is people understanding that the real juice, the real treasure, is within that subtle realm, within us, and within sitting with our beingness.
I like that sitting with our beingness concept. I have another ritual I perform every morning. I get up and I set my intent for the day, and I give gratitude for what's going to be coming to me, as
Mm-hmm.
far as opportunities and people and that sort of thing. And then I just walk my walk. And then at the end of
Mm.
every day, I reflect back on it and give gratitude for what's come, see what I could possibly do better, but not in a judgmental way. And I find if I take just the 5 minutes, morning and evening to do that, I'm able to be present with myself and others in a way that I otherwise couldn't. Do you have any provision for that in what you're talking in your book there?
Well, yes, something that you just said there, I just wanted to point out there's just this subtle thing between judgment and discernment that I think is really a key piece in our ability to really deeply connect. We tend to use judgment for self-protection. We're basically weeding things out, and we are dwelling in a sense of separation. When we discern, we're actually looking for the opposite. We're looking for connection. What connects us to someone, something, and then we follow that string of awareness to really deeply connect with other people and deeply with ourselves and the world.
I love that because judgment and discernment are hugely different, even though they seem similar. Anytime we judge, we freeze things and freeze ourselves. And everything out there is moving except us at that point. The planets are spinning, everything's going on. And so we're frozen and therefore outside of the circle of life. If, however, we discern where we need to be in any given moment, we're still in motion and putting ourselves in a position to run into the people and things that we need to be working with based on our intention. Is that what you're talking about with that?
Oh, that's beautifully said, Gwilda. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You write that scarcity is a myth. Who do you see as
Mm-hmm.
propagating this myth and why?
Well, it's been with us a very, very long time. Since 5,000 years ago was when the shift happened. And it happened concurrent with the development of the agrarian age, where we were separating basically from Mother Earth and trying to kind of copy and repeat what she does, but in a way that we were trying to take control. And so abundance was created through our efforts. And then the abundance drew in this idea of hierarchies and the need for striation and specialization in our society. So the world we've been living in has had this idea of scarcity at the center for that long. So whoever's alive today is not necessarily the perpetrators of it, but we've gone along with the story, and when you believe the story, you are perpetrating the story in that way. You are keeping it going, and your lens tends to create more of it because you look for that. It's that how your vision gets blocked because you don't look for abundance anymore. You don't look for possibility. You look for scarcity, and you behave in ways that self-protect against the kind of the downside of that scarcity, the suffering that goes along with that. So it's been difficult, I think, for all of us.
It has. So for 5,000 years, we've been conditioned into believing in lack. And then these systems have developed themselves around that and are exploiting it. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, anything from competition to, if you look at Charles Darwin's theory of the survival of the fittest, he never ever meant it to mean, to be applied to human beings all the time. In fact, when he wrote the follow-up to that work, which he called The Descent of Man, he talks about love 95 times and survival of the fittest only twice. So unfortunately what happened was his idea of survival of the fittest was used by the industrialists of the time to lure people into the city to compete with one another for making money. And of course you can imagine the conditions in those factories back then, the pollution and the noise and everything. They had to do something to create some excitement and reason to give up life in the country. So that unfortunately has been with us, and it's stuck, even though it is not based in a biological truth. In fact, our bodies tell us, I mean, if you feel stressed all the time, there is a reason, because our bodies are not meant to act as if we're under constant threat all the time. And yet we are made to believe that through various commercials and structures in our society, to believe in lack or that we always are needing more. So this fundamental insecurity as well as scarcity idea keeps us on the treadmill and always concerned and worried about the future.
So we're basically being forced into fight or flight at all times because this is a survival issue. Is that true?
Yes. And biologically what actually happens is whether the threat is real or imagined, the parts of our brains that get enacted is the reptilian aspect of our brain, which is the most ancient part of our brain, which reacts as fight or flight, and it's either or. It's very extreme, and it's triggered by fear and by that idea of scarcity and threat. And we, in that case, are not using our more advanced part of our brain, which can sense into the subtle interrelationships and the bigger picture and the larger patterns that really could move us into a new direction. We're actually being dumbed down by this constant idea of scarcity.
So fear creates judgment. Judgment freezes us in place, and we're in a reptilian brain state. So all of a sudden, we're very controllable, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But, I like to look at it from the potential that's untapped at this point. And there's so many people breaking through to this larger consciousness, this newer consciousness that I call an enough consciousness, because it's really, if you really look without that sort of a constricted lens of never enough, and you look at nature and how nature creates, it creates an ecosystem. And ecosystems are actually systems that create enough for a diverse group of species perpetually, unless there's some kind of disruptor, like we've been disruptors, because we haven't been playing by the enough rules. And so that the shift really is about that. The people that are able to kind of go out of that consciousness box of never enough see that there's so many more possibilities for how we can act and how we can solve problems together and work together to make a better world.
So working together to make a better world rather than dog eat dog and fighting for the top. What a different concept. I'm really getting excited about this. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Our guest this hour is Laurie McCammon, the author of Enough. She can be found on her website, www.lauriemccannon.com. And we're going to have to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to talk about why we're in a better position to transcend the myth at this time and how we can all participate in that transition. So we'll return to the discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. If you want to hear more, previous broadcasts of innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet, Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerreonian Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerreonian Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. Visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Laurie McCammon, the author of Enough. She can be found on her website, www.lauriemccammon.com. Laurie, welcome back. We were just having fun talking about scarcity and riches and how we've got the two confused. And I've got a good one for you here. Do you feel we're in a better position to transcend the myth of scarcity at this time? And if so, what circumstances do you see providing this opportunity?
Oh, yes. I feel we are at that tipping point, truly. Part of my research for the book went into a realm of science called systems theory. And in this, we're looking for general patterns that are repeated in all walks of life and all nature. And I had the good fortune to work with one of the major voices in this area, August Jakachi, and he came up with 4 stages of growth that all that all nature goes through, including human beings and human culture. So we can actually map the history of human culture from the beginning and see where we are now. And we are basically in that phase between adolescence and adulthood. And the phases are gather, repeat, share, and transform. So we are between that share and transform, because share is the adolescence. If you think about what adolescence is all about, it's about cliques, it's about discovering who you are, it's wanting to pair up with someone. It's, we're learning that now, and you see that in our society through the sharing economy and alternate currencies and crowdfunding and the internet. I mean, that really is a rising theme, is how do we share more and better right now. And as we complete this phase of learning more about sharing, we enter into this transformative thing. We are changed by the sharing in understanding that we can embrace more of a global consciousness around caring for the planet, caring for each other, working together better in order to for the better of the whole. And if you look at your human body, that's basically what the cells in your body are doing. They're all different kinds of organs and different kinds of cells working together for the good of the body as a whole. And we're learning to do that as a human family now.
That kind of reminds me of cell division from when a cell is fertilized, and they start to divide. At first, they're dividing and they're all identical. And then there comes a time of differentiation when they start forming liver cells, heart cells, brain cells, etc. And then from that, we start creating the body. And now we have these minds that have 2 lobes to them, and the brain, we use such a small percentage. So do you see this switch over that we're about to come into as utilizing the entire brain and the body being more integrated with it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I've been really fascinated about this whole science that's emerging now about heart intelligence as well, and how, the electromagnetic field that the heart gives off is actually so much larger than the brain. I believe it's 5,000 times larger than the brain. And I feel like heart intelligence, heart wisdom is that kind of holistic knowing that we receive. It's a connection to divine source, the morphogenetic field, whatever you would want to call it, the collective consciousness, where we just know things. And we don't know why we know things, but they just come. And it's a holistic thing, and it's so quick, and it's so transformative. See, so we're talking about moving into the transform. I think this is what it's going to feel like and look like as we enter this next realm of understanding that. And it's not just going to be coming from our localized brain cells. It's going to be coming from a tapping into a larger knowing that if we look at many indigenous tribes that stayed in isolation, they actually use telepathy quite a bit in their day-to-day lives. And I believe we all have that capacity. We've just allowed it to atrophy because we're not using it in our modern society, but it's very much part of who we are. It's in our DNA to be able to sense things from a much broader collective perspective.
As I'm listening to you speak, it reminds me of this concept. It's not a concept, it's actually scientifically proven, that there's a toroidal field or an electromagnetic field around all of us, our heart, all of the heavenly bodies, the earth, the moon, the sun. And every place these toroidal fields cross creates an X point. And NASA has been out there looking at these. It becomes a wormhole between time and space. So if you think that the toroidal field or the electromagnetic field of our heart, every time it crosses that of another, we actually have shortened the time between each other, or shortened the space between each other, and we can access on a deeper level from our heart than we could ever hope to our minds.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Isn't that
I'm really
amazing?
glad to hear that, because I feel that's something that I've experienced directly. I've been part of a women's circle for about 15 years, And there's some days when I get a wave of some kind of emotion or feeling, and I don't know where it comes from. And then we'll have circle, and someone will tell me that, oh, that particular day they were overcome with sadness or anger or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's where it came from.
And there you go back to the discernment piece. Is I think increasingly we're all becoming more empathic like that, but we translate it as our own because we've been so isolated for so long. And so being able to really know yourself on such a deep level that you can discern what's yours and what belongs to other is going to be real important in these times to come, don't you believe?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think that's the kind of work that we need to do is going to shift. And you're absolutely right. We're going to be having to really hone our discernment, and because keeping our hearts open is a whole different skill. And this is why I've been such an advocate for women's empowerment and women's leadership, because I think that although we all have the capacity to bring forth intuition and heart knowing and connection, I think that there's just a broader, realm of experience to draw from in some ways, from the feminine in all of us. And so as we bring that feminine back into the mainstream as an equal partner to the masculine, this is really going to help us to move beyond the constriction of the never enough paradigm.
And I love the way you said that, because it's in partnership with the masculine, not in lording over or trying to emulate and overpower. We've not been standing up and been present to support our brothers in the way that they really need, so that they can support us in the way that we really need. So I love the way you said that. How do you see thought forms of the masses affecting the whole?
Well, yes, I believe in a vibrational viewpoint of the world, so that when we fix ourselves in terms of when we concentrate, fix is the wrong word. That's probably from the old paradigm thinking that snuck through. When we keep our vibration high, it really offers other people a higher place to interact with. And so I feel very strongly that in this realm, the kind of activism that is really needed, more than fighting the old system, because the system is breaking apart. We see it happening right now. I think we need more people anchoring the new energies. So bringing forth new structures, new ways of supporting community and one another and the planet from that higher vibration, giving people something to attach to and aspire to, is what's really going to be the work ahead of us.
So like focusing on what we can create versus what's falling apart?
Yes, because I think that, that's just another way we get hooked in. And you see, that's never enough thinking. When we are blaming or shaming an old group, and this is a little mantra that I use, that if we look at ourselves and we're trying to decide whether we're running an old story or if we're trying to stand for the new story, if we're blaming or shaming someone else, if we're in anger, if we're in fear, if we're in frustration around the old and engaging with that energy, we cannot be available to create the new, because we're engaged in that old energy.
Beautiful. We're going to have to take a break, and I want to talk about blaming and shaming on the other side. We'll be back on the flip side of this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. Our website is www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our special guest this hour is Laurie McCammon, the author of Enough. She can be found on her website, www.lauriemccammon.com. Laurie, we were just talking about blame and shame. I love that subject because it is so prevalent and so damaging, and I think the sooner we really take a deeper look at it and get out of it, our entire society will benefit. So tell me what you know about blame and shame.
Well, I know that it's about the lowest vibrational emotion you can have is shame. So anytime we trigger shame, we know for sure that we're running that old never enough story. And it actually hurts. It hurts a lot. And so what I do know also about it is that to transcend the blaming and shaming, we need to claim. We need to claim ourselves. And I remember I was talking to a friend about this. We were discussing a situation, and she kind of got, ooh, I don't like that word claim. It just doesn't, it sounds kind of ugh, you know. And I said, I know what you mean, but I see it from a deeper perspective of claiming ourselves, claiming our truths, claiming our deepest knowings about our needs and our passions and what is right for us. And then you can even take that a deeper level to the idea of liberation, of liberating ourselves from our old stories, from engaging in those blaming and shaming stories, and to create new stories for ourselves that are liberating, that are empowering.
You know, there's this cycle that goes that I've observed is that we're taught to feel guilty. when we feel guilty, that's a very low frequency too, and we can only sit in it so long before we got to get rid of it, right? Or we're going to go into shame.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do with
Mm-hmm.
that often is to project it onto somebody else. That's blame, and then they're stuck with the guilt, and around we go. Have you experienced this?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have, and less and less because I'm aware of it now, and I try to avoid anything like that. And when I see it, like with my spouse, if it happens to come up, I actually name it. So I guess you could add another AIM word there. Would be name it. Name it when you see it. And it's so interesting because it's all part of, I think, the old transactional way of relating, where we think we need to get love and security and support from other people. So we tend to treat people almost like objects in that way, as providers of things that we think we need, rather than relating to one another through essence, through connecting through our essence. And I think that really comes from a place of when we know we are enough and we're deeply in touch with our gifts and our value and our passions. We no longer need to be seeking that outside of ourselves. And then we're free to relate to people at a much more intimate, deeper level.
So basically, standing in the truth of who you are is the ultimate protection from taking on guilt.
Yes. That's true.
I'm really having fun, I have to tell you. So if we can stand in every
too.
moment in the truth of who we are, we don't take on the projected guilt. The other person then is left with either looking at their own process or discerning proximity from us so they don't have to.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So that just
That's
kind
right.
of eliminates the problem without having to be defensive or polarized or anything else. You can stay in heart and be putting that out into the world and be totally protected. I love that thought. Yeah.
Oh,
What
yes,
role
you're
does
so right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It's all right.
What role does gratitude play in the new way of thinking you outline in your book?
Well, I believe that gratitude is attunement to what is working. It's attunement to the flow. What's moving? What's working in your life? What do you want to create? And it just keeps you on the path. It keeps you on that clear and free path of grace and ease. I think gratitude is a fantastic tool. I know when the Abundance Journal came out, I did all that work, and it really did make a difference. And after a while, you don't necessarily need to even do it as a conscious practice, because it becomes part of who you are, and you tend to be more in gratitude. And of course, it feels good to be in gratitude and to be noticing all the positive things that are happening. And I am an optimist. I know a lot of people out there are thinking the world's falling apart, but I feel very grateful, because I think part of what's falling apart, mostly what's falling apart, are the things we don't want anymore. And that leaves more room for all the good things to flow.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. It's good riddance, right? Where can people find your book?
Well, it's available anywhere, the big booksellers, and a lot of the indie booksellers have it too. I'm also selling it if you wanted an autographed copy. I sell them at theenoughmessage.com, and you also can get a free guidebook, an e-guidebook download if you buy it directly from me, and I can autograph it for you and all of that.
I love hard copy books, and I particularly like autographed ones, but I love your book. It's a beautiful tool. How would you recommend our listeners take their first step out of scarcity consciousness?
Well, it's a very simple thing that you can do, and this is part of the beauty of the enough message itself, because the word enough shows up at every aspect of your life, whether relationships or work or money. And so just next time you observe that word come, every time you see that word in your world, just observe without judgment, but with discernment and with great compassion for yourself. Are you orienting towards the old never enough story, or are you orienting towards a feeling of I am enough? Just observe that and see what shifts in just bringing consciousness to that place.
The key to change is being your own witness. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to say it, yes. We're bringing consciousness to a place that it wasn't before. And that's really, to me, what this whole human journey and evolution is about.
To be able to constantly course correct changes the way the pathways in our brain works, changes our thought form, and then changes the overall thought form of humankind. Is that what you're seeing?
Oh, yes, because we're all connected. We're all connected at a very subtle level, and as we become more aware of our own self and our own thoughts and our own feelings, we're also at that very same time opening up to this larger knowing about our essence selves as a collective.
So like the 100th monkey theory, so that's to say the more of us that transcend scarcity consciousness, the easier it becomes for others to do so. Is that correct? Would you expound a little?
Yes, yes. No, the 100th monkey idea is the morphogenetic field that Rupert Sheldrake talks about, that we all share this field of knowing at the subtle level. And the more of us who participate in that consciously and shift an idea, shift a way of doing things, a belief system, it becomes so much easier for others to access it. The theory was that there was a monkey who learned to wash I forget what it was, whether it was coconuts or nuts or something, before it ate it, and then taught the tribe. And then all of a sudden, monkeys on other islands and other places started to do the same. And so the theory was, how did they communicate with one another? Is there this other way of communication? And yes, I believe there is, and there have been some experiments around that, quite a few that talk about that.
Oh, Laurie,
so,
time flies, and we're out of it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, and live a fulfilling life.